Hi, everybody. This is the Deadhead Rev, Andy Campbell, and I want to welcome you to another special podcast of A Lovely View of Heaven with my partner, Ian Lynch. We're working on making some wonderful conversations about our love of the Grateful Dead and the music. And I think today this is going to be part of a two-part podcast series. Sometimes we understand when we talk about a particular song of the Grateful Dead that it's always paired with others. And so one of the people I talked to wanted to talk about Franklin's Tower, and we had a great conversation. In fact, that went lengthy. So we're gonna divide it up into two parts because obviously with Franklin's Tower, you got to do some help on the way and slip. So really do appreciate that. And so we're kind of doing this on the fly and making this a second. I want to tell a story, one of my stories about the dead that was kind of interesting. I almost panicked. Years ago, I worked in food service and was a bartender at a great restaurant called Arnie's and had a great manager friend I still talk to today. His name is Ed Moskowitz. One of the great things, if you work in food service and you're the liquor buyer, you deal with the beer and liquor vendors, and they're the same ones that deal with the concert venues. They get the tickets, they do it. And so one year we had the greatest seats. We were in the second row at Deer Creek, so we got those reserve seats right up front. It was awesome, and they did play Help. I got to tell you, there was the panic story. I'd come home from a late night shift, and Ed had given me my pair of tickets, from Ticketmaster printing those things off. And I put them in my pocket. I'd come home to work, get two or three of them, come home from work early in the morning, woke up, and my wife was doing laundry. And she grabbed my tickets. And yeah, they got washed. It was this amazing thing. And so I jumped out of bed about 10 feet, panicked, amazingly thinking, oh my gosh, these tickets are gone, and pulled out the envelope tickets were in, if you remember those days. And we slowly, with tweezers and everything else, peeled them apart and let them dry. They were ragged looking, the pair of tickets. I mean, but you could still see what they were. You could still read what was on them. It was like, a dollar bill that had gone through the laundry and you find it in your pocket, you kind of unpeel it. And fortunately, the paper was strong enough. We did get in. We did get into the show. It was good for a few years of the tickets at Deer Creek. And it wasn't just that. I remember seeing John Mellencamp. I remember seeing all kinds of people because of the connections from the restaurant. So that was always kind of a perk of having those connections. You get all kinds of seats. There were lots of them. We always went up. Yeah, I'll never forget that, jumping out of bed that morning thinking, oh my gosh, the tickets, those great, great seats to see the Dead were lost. But fortunately they weren't. We did get to see a great show, saw a good few shows. Ran into Ed at Deer Creek this summer. Was there, and my gosh, he's got kids that are older than we were now, and all of those. It was a wonderful, wonderful, not great memory, but it was just like, oh, my love of the Dead was so bad. The bad news is, if we all remember when the Deer Creek fans got a little out of control and they busted over the fence and they canceled the next night and similar tickets. So it's a show I missed. Always made me a little bitter about what happened. Again, had some great shows. Who knows what they would have played? Yeah, that was one of the things that really kind of started to sour the experience. It got controlled out of hand. And like I have said in previous episodes, I do believe that attitude is pretty much gone. Welcome again, everybody. This is Reverend Andy Campbell, the Deadhead Rev, along with my good friend, Reverend Ian Lynch, here with A Lovely View of Heaven. And today we have something special for you, something a little unique. We have the first of a two-part podcast because, well, we almost had to do it. We've got one of those situations where today we're going to talk about the song Help on the Way. And our guest had so much great material. I guess you could almost say it was an extended jam, so to speak. And we had to divide it up into two because if we're doing Help on the Way, I'm going to let you all guess what the second part is going to be. So, Ian, I know you got to look at things with our guest and things. How have you been?
Been great. It's always good to be together here. I love the surprises. Isn't that it's kinda like, when I saw Dead& and Company this summer, they were coming in on the 2nd verse of a song, I'm like, "Oh, I'll bet they played the 1st verse last night." I had to look it up, and sure enough, they did, you know? So, this little two-parter is just like that. This is, the 1st verse of Dark Star, and we'll get to the 3rd verse eventually, you know, somewhere down the road. Some podcast will pick it up, you know?
Well, I think we've spoken before that beautiful experiences is, when you hear the beginning of one song that it's going to end on another song later, and you almost anticipate that jam coming up. And
Yeah.
this is definitely one of those cases. This is also another case where strangers stopping strangers just to shake their hands comes in. Manya is somebody again I've never met before, but I met her through this online community of wonderful, like-minded folks who want to talk about how the Dead and the music and the Jerry Garcia band, how their life has intersected with that and faith and how they've done things. And her interview was pretty incredible, and I think it was deserving of a two-part podcast. I
Yeah.
don't think there's any question about
Yeah, I'm
that.
definitely looking forward to see how people respond to this. This is good stuff.
Uh, we're going to try to make sure that we have the most natural break. It was one interview and not two. So Ian here is the mastermind who's going to make this all seem seamless and normal, like we intended to do too at the beginning. So anyway, let's go
Said the
ahead
quiet part
and
out loud, don't tell them.
let's go ahead and make our way to part one of Help on the Way with my good friend Manya, and she's got a different perspective on being a deadhead. And we'll see you on the other side. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about the song "Help on the Way," and it's kind of interesting. Very first lines: "Speak to paradise waits." It speaks to me that when Hunter was writing this, he understands there is an existence of a place that he refers to as paradise. And this whole song seems to be about the idea of paradise, something that will help us, something that will redeem us and bring us back to who we are supposed to be. Again, I'm fairly certain Hunter was very biblically literate. He makes references all the time. And I think he had a concept of what a paradise was. He probably heard in churches and preaching different things. I don't know all of his upbringing, but he seemed to have this idea that there is a paradise that many Christians might refer to as heaven. And so he speaks of what that might look like for him. And oftentimes we seek an idea of a paradise, a heaven, of a better place when we are in trouble. And sometimes when we are in trouble, we make promises, we make bargains. And, the story of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane is one of those, where he was at a very, very tough time and he knew what his fate was going to be. And all he wants is some friends to hang out with him. And I think there's that idea that when we're in a situation that's tough, we could use some friends, we could use some reassurance. And so this "Help on the Way," the title and the beginning with paradise, it's the first word of the song. Help on the way, paradise. Her angels in flame, she has no pain. She is pure, is not to blame, poised for flight, wings springing from night into the sun, something going from darkness into a sense of light. That seems to me to be a good sign of hope. In the book of Revelation, which to me is not a future prediction, to be friends, we get the idea that paradise would be a place that never got dark. To me, I'm sorry, I want some dark to be able to sleep. That wouldn't be a paradise situation. Insomnia might hurt some people. But if we think back to ancient times without the benefit of electric light and all the artificial sunlight that we create now, darkness was incredibly dark. It was light and no clouds, a blackness that we probably never experienced. And so he goes on, and biblically, Hunter probably learned that there was some sort of sacrifice that you had to make, that there was a quid pro quo that would seem to go against the idea of grace. And so the question is, tell me the cost. Tell me the cost. And I think that's often a thing. We think that there is a paradise, that there is something for us, but we have to pay for it. As if it were out of our control, how we respond to the idea of paradise being laid out in front of us. Um, biblical stories about what it takes to enter into the kingdom of heaven. Jesus told the story, a man asked him, what must I do? And we go through the laws about loving God with all your heart, mind, and soul, loving your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus also adds to the one man that you have to sell everything and give it to the poor. And the man leaves angry because he was very rich. And so tell me the cost. I can pay. Let me go. Tell me love is not lost. Sell everything. And then comes the line, to me, without love day to day, insanity's king. It's the truth. It's the biblical message. Without love in it, without some sort of acknowledgement that love is the key to all we have, we'll never find that paradise. There will be. If we embrace the idea of love and that truly that cost is only love. It isn't that we have to sell everything. We only have to sell. And there's the commitment to it that we hear in this song. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I will pay day by day. And then anyway, lock, bolt, and key, lock, stock, and barrel, 100% in. Crippled but free, was blind all the time, was learning to see. So many different images there. The scriptural idea of blindness being punished, or being blind even though we have good eyes, not being able to see what was in front of us. It's a consistency. And it is that help when our eyes are truly open, when we're able to see things clearly for the first time with influence and let go of the preconceived notions we will find ourselves in a better place. I was blind all the time. I was learning to see. Key is keep learning, keep going through, and seeking out paradise and trying to open your eyes to what it could be. And paradise isn't some far off distant thing that Hunter wants to yearn for, or the deadheads want to yearn for. Paradise can be the here and now. It's the help on the way. Not only this, I've got you today. It's living in the moment. I love what I love. I want it this way. I will stay one more day. Like I say, honey, it's you, making it two. Without love, dream will come true. Hunter tells us to live in the moment, to understand that there is here and now this idea of help on the way, paradise. And maybe it's just the person sitting next to you. Oftentimes it is, sometimes when we feel lost, when we feel we're in our own personal dark night of the soul, we need one another to lift us, sometimes to remind us. And I'm grateful. The song serves as a great reminder what Hunter has an optimistic view that, yes, there is something. And largely the something better happens because of the relationships we have. We see. That's what it's about being a deadhead. I love the music and everything else, but it's you fans and actions that I make. And it's the ability to, when you see me wearing a shirt like this, or I see you wearing a shirt like this, that automatically the barriers go down between us, and that we have an understanding of one another, that there's a basis. There is something to start with, building blocks, if you will. We are part of a community that we have decided we're going to do. Even if you're just dipping your toe into the water of exploring faith or exploring music, the call is to keep learning, keep growing. I love studying the scriptures, and I'm going to do it as long as I can. I'm talking about the grateful. I'm going to do it as long as I can. I love being a part of this community. To me, that is the help on the way. Maybe it's the next show. Maybe it's the, next buzz you get with a good friend. Maybe it's the next tape or CD or podcast or whatever it is that you listen to that brings it. And it's the reminder that paradise is there and it's freely given to us. Largely that paradise involves other. Manya's going to be talking a little bit about Franklin's Tower, and we talked a little slip. So I hope you enjoy our conversations going forward. Shout out to my buddy Ed, and was thinking about him today, Ed Moskovitz. I hope you're doing well. And to Manya, who is our guest for this today, I can't thank you enough. You're going to learn about a very, very brave. She just is an incredible soul. And one of the joys is I've never met her in person. Our connection was through social media and the sermon series and everything else. I'm just grateful to get to know people like her and to get to know people like you. So as always, if you have any comments or anything else, share what you're doing, like, subscribe, share us with other folks. I hope you're enjoying what we're doing. If you are interested in talking about your favorite Grateful Dead song, please shoot me a line, send in the comments. I'm willing to talk to just anybody about the songs that they love.
Paradise waits on the crest of a wave, her angels in flame. She has no pain. Like a child, she's pure, she is not to blame. Poised for flight, wings spread bright, bring from night into the sun. Don't stop to run. She can fly like a lie, she can't be outdone. Tell me the cost. I can pay, let me go, tell me love is not lost. Tell everything. Without love, day-to-day insanity's king. Help on the way. But I know with this I've got you today. Don't fly away. 'Cause I love what I love and I want it that way. I will stay one more day. I gotta say, honey, it's you. Making it to without
this is going to be fun. We're going to talk about the song Franklin's Tower. We're going to have a great time. And this is my new friend. This is Manya, and she is from Roswell, Georgia. And Manya, will you introduce yourself and let people know how we met one another?
Well, where to start? I was born in Lexington, Kentucky, grew up there my whole life, and then came to Atlanta to go to art school. That was 89. I had been a deadhead since 86, right around my 16th year. I was supposed to meet a boyfriend in a lot somewhere. Meet me by the front gate, he said, at Buckeye. And, I don't know if you've been to Buckeye, but trying to find one brown-haired dude in a tie-dye at the front gate was never happened.
Where
But I
was the
did
front
find a
gate?
band. I lost the boy, but I found a band. And every year I thank that boy for taking me to the road that led to this band. And I've been on the bus ever since. So I was in Atlanta from 89 till today. But the Omni every year was a 3-day spring show, and I treated it like my Easter service. And if I could live to the Omni shows and get to that concert, dance my face off for 3 days, I knew my whole year was set right for the rest of the year. It really was the best time. 89 to 93. Obviously Jerry was struggling in the last couple years. And I remember that last Omni show, my partner that usually went with me had the flu, and he and I never missed a show. And he gave up the ticket because he was that sick. And I just, that was a bad omen. And then I took my baby brother to the 95 show, and I could just tell the attitude in the crowd walking in, the sound, everything. I knew it was my last show with Jerry. And I walked out, and where there normally was always a drum circle and the shakedown vending and the food afterwards, it was like a smoky sulfur wasteland with nitrous bottles cracking and a bunch of methed out looking kids looking for more meth. There was none of the Grateful Dead vibe. There was none of the healthy, we're looking out for each other because we're a community and we're trying to create a safe space so we can all just coexist. It was, we fought the law and the law won. Y'all go home. And that was the whole vibe of that night. So from 95 until, I want to say 2015, I just buried my head down and got about living life and being a mom, and still was my deadhead self, went to Further and did all those things. But, I found great, Dave Matthews replaced that much of my jeeriness. I cried at a Dave show and was like, okay, maybe somebody else out there's making music. And
Were we together at Piedmont Park?
yes, we
With
were.
all
And
the
I
brothers,
was
okay.
such a mom then. I was worried about the lack of bathrooms and the inability of anybody to exit safely. That was what Piedmont Park did for me.
Wow.
But yeah, I've suddenly watched as I've aged. I've gone from, we at the Dead show, let's go, to I'm the mother. Do you have your Band-Aids? Do you know where you parked your car? Do you have an extra couple bucks? Okay, take a water bottle. Like,
Yeah,
that's my
you know
job
what?
now.
And it is interesting that people take roles. So, well, how did you and I connect together?
Oh, I just happen to be scrolling around in the Dead Zone on different pages. I really follow the Grateful, when they all popped up in 2015, there was Dead and Company and Grateful Dead heads from the 90s and all these different pages. And what I found was a lot of them have some misogyny, some ugliness, and some deadheads that think they need to be higher than thou. I'm not one of those people that says, oh, if you didn't see Jerry, you're not real. I think we can all come to, I love Miles Davis. I never saw him, but I'm allowed to love him as much as a real Miles Davis fan who saw him. So I found you, I believe, through one of those Dead pages that I follow along with. The Grateful Dead women's page is the one I'm mainly on now, because what I found is as Trump came into presidency, a lot of the negative energy in those pages followed the political vibe. And it got really anti-dead really quick. So I bailed out of most of those pages. So I'm not sure where exactly I found you. I just know that I went, oh my God, there's somebody preaching Jesus and the Grateful Dead, which as a child of a clergy member, I went from, I'm angry at the patriarchy in the church,
Sure.
but I love the ideas. And as a 19-year-old idealist, I remember thinking, if I was God and I was watching people disrespect what I sent Jesus to teach you, I would have to send somebody else with a different message or different lyrics or different something to get through this new generation. And one of the problems I see in America is we don't have a transition period between childhood and adulthood, say a bar mitzvah, a coming of age ritual. And I felt like the Dead community gave young people a chance to go out on their own within a kind of safe community, explore the realms of adulthood, but still have a safe place to do it. And I thought, why wouldn't God take this music that draws everybody together and put some deep lyrics under it, inspire some words, and throw it out there? Because in my idealism, I think the message was reaching a lot of white kids in the 80s and 90s that were not doing much else with themselves spiritually. And I think that it had the potential, if I was the Great Spirit, to push love into the universe. I cannot think of a better way to do it. You've got a 50-year band that doesn't even have to advertise, and people fall over themselves to get tickets so they can stand together and sing in community.
It's a worship experience, is what I've always
It
felt like.
is.
When and not every worship is the same. It's not
Right.
a repeat thing, and that's why I think what draws us to it is each time is a different kind of message and meaning. I imagine the Dead and Company tour family is where I first posted some things, and I know
Yeah, I probably am still in that one. Because, of course, like everyone, I'm trying to win the lottery and go to the Sphere. But,
I will mention that at this date of our recording that I got fortunate enough, I will be going.
I'm glad. I'm working. We'll see.
Okay. Well, if you
Health has to stay right.
just if you want to hang out, if there's any chance, I got some other friends coming too that I've met, like you.
Right.
Yeah, and in fact, another podcast guest, believe it or not, is going to be there Memorial Day weekend.
Awesome.
Which
Well,
for
I
me-
may be sending some poster money your way, so send me a poster.
Well, you never know. I'm going to have to buy a bunch if I do that for every.
I know. I'm wondering how many they're going to limit us to, but here's the beauty of the Sphere.
I don't have any, so I'm going to get one because I did the VIP thing. But anyway, that's.
Oh, baby, you are going to live large. It is the most beautiful building in the world.
I
I went to you too.
I told
was
my
like
son I
heaven.
was spending his inheritance.
You earned it, Daddy. You go.
Well,
This
let me-
is epic.
Well, you have talked so much about your kind of spiritual journey and what the Dead have meant to you and what have you. It's kind of fun. I'm guessing we were probably at some similar shows, not knowing each other. My son did get to see Jerry because I took him to Buckeye Lake because the babysitter fell through. That's on another episode that he's actually.
That would be a place to go. Or at least be a place for the hits to play.
Well, and his favorite song, oh, he was always going, I want to hear Uncle John's band. And I tried to explain to him, chances are, it may not be what they play. And of course, they played it in the second set. It was fun. Yeah, he was so happy about it. Deer Creek, you said you'd been to. I grew up
Yep.
not far from there. Alpine Valley was another good place. And
Yeah, I was one of those responsible deadheads that could not look her father in the face and say, Dad, I'm dropping out of college to go follow Jerry. So I kept telling myself when I graduate art school, and then Jerry died. So it was like,
Well, I do want to ask you a question that's been brought up to me. First of all, I'm happy you're here because you are the first woman guest that I have had on here. And so your
Yay.
perspective is going to be a little bit different. And one of the things that I was watching a documentary, and there were women speaking to their unique experiences. As a man, I never felt unsafe.
yes.
And so, and when I saw this, I mean, it was like anything else that I took for granted with my, being born on third base as I was. And I took it for granted, that everybody felt safe.
Yeah. It was something, of course, in my 20s. Whatever. As I turned 30, once I turned 40, oh, it was on. And I started watching baby girls at shows that I literally was like, oh, she's not going to make it through the second set. She's already wasted.
Yeah.
So that's when I took over my role as, okay, I'm no longer the hot chick at the concert. Now my job is to be the angry auntie. And I'm going to be stepping right up into her business and making sure that Bubba stays off her. And I will make enough noise as a feisty yaya that this ain't happening. Because here's what I know about the boys in the band who I've never met. They have wives and daughters. And this is years before they came out with Participation Row and trying to raise awareness and do everything they're doing. This is back in the Jerry days when all we did was some mushrooms and some tie-dye hustle and just keep it moving.
Right.
Everybody that says they're not political, they have wives and sisters and daughters, and they would not want their wives and sisters and daughters to be treated this way. And men in the crowd, it is not women's job to police ourselves. It is men's job to gather other men and say, locker room behavior ended in the 70s.
Yeah.
And it is now 2024. And you may not like me too, but there's a plenty of girls out here and women too. We watching, and we're not going to play anymore.
Well,
That's what I think the deadhead men, all these years I've been cutting deadhead slack, like, because we're all this kind and airy-fairy group that we're not bad, but I'm sorry, if you have a steal your face with a Stars and Bars Confederate flag, if you're out in that crowd trolling 13-year-old girls in hippie skirts,
yeah, there's
you
no
are
place
the
for that.
problem.
There's no place. for
You
that.
are the problem.
And, and you go back, and even I have to admit, if I listen online to some of Big Ben's rants, I turn the station. Yeah, if he's going on a live version of Good Morning Little Schoolgirl, and there were times that obviously the Southern Comfort was deep into him, and he
Right.
was saying things and using words that none of the band members, even 5 years later on, would have been comfortable with that kind of thing. And
I think even Jerry said, ooh, rap sucks. I think if Jerry was still alive and had listened to
Yeah.
anybody past that interview, I think he would have reassessed and found that rap has some valuable pulse out there too.
well, before
God's book is real big on music. There's a lot of it.
that was quite a conversation. That was a different perspective on things. But I don't think I'd ever really thought about much before talking with her about the experience of what it was like to be a young woman at Grateful Dead concerts, and the things that she may have experienced and the things that she has seen with younger generations and had felt a need to protect a little bit. And I never, um, it's something that never crossed my mind. And I know it was an
Yeah.
eye opener for me.
Yeah. 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 I liked her describing her journey, her maturation to being an angry auntie, to taking care of it.
Mhm.
Made me think about the dancing bears. She's a mama bear, that she's protecting from her experience, which is such a powerful. I mean, that's really all we have are our own stories, and we have to own them and find power in them. And to see someone do that with their story is really great, and to hear it from a perspective other than ours. I mean, here we are, a couple of old white guys. We were as you say in the interview, you're born on third base. I mean, we just it was we had it easy, and
Yeah.
we don't have a
Yeah.
right to complain, because we did have had it easy in life. And so to give a platform for these other voices, to really hear and to understand as best we can, to we talk about walking a mile in someone else's shoes, but you really got to sit with someone and just shut up and listen and take it in and hear their story, kind of like going to a show and just taking in the show, right? I mean, Eh, this is one of those interviews that's worth rewinding, listening to again, and just sit there and take it in. Don't analyze, just hear the story.
It was such a learning experience for me. It was so powerful. And it was a real statement about not only her perseverance, she would have had every good reason, seeing what she'd seen, to maybe get away from the community, but the music and what she felt from the vast majority, was worth it. And I can't help but draw the parallels at the church, that oftentimes that same type of patriarchy, misogyny, based on time, place, location, that women have experienced in church. And let's face it, I read that we were at the anniversary not recently, 1974 was when a single woman could actually get her own credit
Yeah,
card.
yeah,
So I mean, we've come far, but Manya's testimony uh, opened my eyes and ears that we still have a long way to go. And she's been out there fighting the battle, and she's been aware of it. Um, I've been on the periphery of it. I've tried to feel as an ally, but I feel that I have much more work to do after listening to her stories
yeah.
to make sure. Yeah, I've got to be aware of my presence around somebody who doesn't know me or anything about me. As a guy of a certain age, color, that kind of thing,
Hmm.
and the threat that they might feel, and to be self-aware. If I'm walking, I may do the priest and the Levite thing from the Good Samaritan and cross on the other side if I would see two single girls walking toward me, just to make them feel more comfortable,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't think those things are, and to not invade their space.
Right.
And even as friendly and gregarious as I am, I never would feel I'm a threat to
Mm,
anybody. That's my perspective only.
yeah. Well, Manya talked about being angry at the patriarchy, which is absolutely justified. But I'm angry at the patriarchy, right? But I'm part of the patriarchy. I can't escape it. That's part of being born on third base with the privilege, is that you also have that responsibility. I when I talk about
Mhm.
when I talk about being an anti-racist, my I know I'm shifting categories here, but so be being a feminist would be the same thing. Um, but particularly in racism, I think the fact that that's totally created. It's a construct, right? And it's constructed so that people like you and me have access to power, which means we've got the golden key. You're born with it. You can open doors that other people can't. So that's true whether it's about sex, gender, race. That you have access. And I've thought that my responsibility then is, since I can unlock the door, I should unlock as many doors as I can, and I should prop them open, and I should invite the people in who are being locked out. That's how I fight the patriarchy, because I'm on the inside. I can open the doors and let people in. Um, of course, the more you do that, the more they try to take away your key and put you on the outside. But that's taking up your cross and following, right? I mean, that's that's what we're called to do, and I can't say I do it enough. Uh, but I understand that that's my role, and people like Manya help remind me of that. because there's something precious.
I've
in
often
here.
tried to say,
You know, the patriarchy is locking away
Yeah.
something really precious and valuable that belongs to everybody. And so we need to be we need to
absolutely.
be sharing it. That's where, churches have done really bad evangelism by telling people they're going to hell first. But I've got the key. It's like, well, if you don't lead with that, you don't need the key either. Just say, hey, I've got some really good food. Would you like some? I've got a burrito and
Often
bucks.
oftentimes people who want to talk about hell first do so in a way that they kind of look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah.
And it just gets off-putting. I about, being who I am and the things I identify with, I've tried to tell people, I plan on using my superpower of white, male, heterosexual, Christian, educated privilege for good. And that's my responsibility, is to take those gifts and do something with them for others instead of myself. And it's not always easy.
Right.
But I have to, I'm
Yeah.
so grateful for being made aware more by someone like Manya. I was raised by my mom. I've always tried to have some sort of an awareness of, the struggles that women have gone through. I remember the stuff my mother went through after my parents' divorce, where she had to protect herself on a date or two.
Mm.
You hear those stories about your mother and they don't leave you. And Manya's a brave, brave woman. I tell you what, I loved it. And I'm glad that, we got so much from her that, especially at this part where eventually it says, hey, we probably need to talk about something else that we came here for in the first place. So just a little teaser for
Yeah.
what might be coming next.
You got-
What else you got to say before we move on?
You got to listen for those teasers, right? When they're playing Slipknot, which I still can't define what is Slipknot. It's what's between. It's the peanut butter in the sandwich. I know the slices of bread, but I can't find the peanut butter. It's there somewhere, right? But it's the journey, and I think that's one of the fun things about a live Dead show is the journey between one song to the next. How they're going to get there? It's never quite the same way. And this week, our journey took us through some territory that we needed to go through. We needed to hear this. We needed to maybe these were a little darker chords or a little dissonant chords. So
Brutal honesty.
yeah,
And then we needed to hear it. We needed to hear it. So. Well, Ann, I thank you again for all the work you do to make this happen. This is Reverend Andy Campbell, the Deadhead Rev, easy for me to say. If you like what we're doing, let us know, share, comment, whatever. We're going to have some more content coming up for you. Obviously, part 2 coming up next. Some other podcasts. We may even be doing some live things in the future. You never know.
Where would
We've got
that
all
be?
kinds of things in store. Yeah, you never know. Anyway, as always, every once in a while, you will get shown the light in the strangest of places if you look at it right. This is Reverend Andy Campbell, Reverend Ian Lynch, signing off.